This is your Algebra 1 Semester 1 exam review video. Your review is about 9 pages long, and I'm going to do one video for every 2 pages. So there's between 4 and 5 videos. This is my first video I'm making, so I'm not sure how many there'll be yet, but at least 4 or 5 to go over everything. So, number 1, as a favor to her friend, Natasha worked 7 hours at a diner for $10 per hour last week. She also makes $8 per hour when she babysits. She wants $206 for a prom dress. Create an inequality to show how many hours she must babysit, right? So we know to make money, she worked 7 hours for $10 per hour. So that's 7 times 10. Plus, she babysits for $8 an hour, but we don't know how many hours she babysits, right? And together, all the money she makes has to pay for her prom dress. So she can make more than $206, or she could make equal to $206, but she can't make less than that. So this would be our inequality. And does it tell us to solve it? It doesn't tell us to solve it, so we can stop right there. This is our inequality. If we wanted to solve it, let's go ahead and do that just for fun, right? Because that's so much fun. 8h greater than or equal to 206. Minus 70 on both sides, 8h greater than or equal to 136. And then divide by 8, h is greater than or equal to 17. So she's got to work at least 17 hours, if not more, babysitting to make enough money for her prom dress. But you did not have to solve this. All you had to do was write the equation. All right, number 2. George makes $5 per autograph, and we're going to call that A for each autograph, and $8 per hour working as an actor. And we're going to call those hours when he's acting C at a local theater. He needs $730 for rent. Create an inequality to show how much he needs from each source of income to have enough for rent. So he makes $5 times however many autographs he gives, plus he makes $8 per hour acting, and we call those hours acting C. So $5 per autograph plus $8 per hour of acting, that has to at least equal his rent, right? So it has to be greater than $730, if not equal to $730. It can be more than 7. He can work and make tons of money if he wants, but he at least has to pay for rent. So the very least amount he can make is $730. He can work equal to $730, or he can make more than that. He just can't make less than that. All right, number 3, we've got a graph here, and we have length of room in feet on the y-axis and length of room on the blueprint, which is a lot smaller, in inches on the x-axis. It says write an equation to show the relationship between the length of the room in feet, and when that's on our y-axis, we call it r, and the length of the room in inches on the blueprint, b. So instead of x, we're going to call this the b axis, and instead of y, we're going to call this the r axis. So anywhere we would normally use an x and a y, we're going to use a b and an r. All right, so we have to write an equation to show the relationship. Whenever you write an equation based off a graph, you use y equals mx plus b. And of course, in our case, instead of y, we're going to use r, and instead of x, we're going to use this b. Well, let's first fill everything out, and once we solve it, let's replace our variables. So think of it this way, y equals mx plus b. B is our y-intercept. So where are we crossing our y-axis? Right here at 0, right? On the y-axis, I'm crossing it right here at 0. So y equals mx plus 0. And now I got to figure out my slope. So to get from the origin here, 0, to the next point where our line goes through a corner of a square, because it kind of goes through the middle of squares here, right? But the next point where it goes through an actual point on the line, on the graph, is right there. So we have to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over 2. If we went up 5 again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and over 2, we land on our line, on a point on the line again. So our slope is 5 over 2. So y equals 5 over 2x plus 0. And remember, instead of x and y, we're using b and r. So b equals 5 over 2 times r, and we don't have to put plus 0. So this is our equation. The blueprint size is 5. Oh, I totally got that backwards. Just kidding. R equals 5 over 2b. See, that's what you get when you don't pay attention. R equals 5 over 2b. The real size of the length of the room in feet is 5/2 the size of the blueprint. It's bigger than 1 of the blueprint, right? It's bigger. So here's your equation. That's all you had to have. All right, number 4. See, I'm an adult and I'm a teacher and I teach this all the time, year after year, and sometimes I'm a bonehead. It's okay. As long as you talk through it and catch your mistake, you're good. Number 4, write an equation in slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, for each of the following lines shown on the graph, right? So we have to replace the y-intercept and we have to replace the slope. So here, y equals mx plus b. First thing I want to do is find my y-intercept right here. So it crosses my y-axis at -1. So mx minus 1. That's my y-intercept. Okay, next thing I want to do is replace m. So I started off with y equals mx plus b. Plus -1 became -1. And now I got to figure out m. So my slope, here's a point on my line. Here's a point on my line. The points is whenever your line crosses through the corner of a square. That's a point on your line. So to get from one dot to the next here, I have to go up 1 over 2. Rise over run, 1 over 2. So y equals 1 over 2x minus 1. This is my equation of my line. Okay, for the next one, same thing. Y equals mx plus b. First thing I want to do is find my y-intercept. Where am I crossing the y-axis? Right here. That's at +2. So y equals mx plus 2. And then what's my slope to get from one point to the next, right? This goes through the corner of a box. This goes through the corner of a box. So to get from this point to this point, I have to go down 2 over 1. Down 2 over 1. So rise over run is down 2 over 1. -2 over 1x plus 2. And if I write it in simplest form, it's just y equals -2x plus 2. This is my equation of my line. Okay, number 5, last problem of the first page. Bart wants to rent a car. The fee is $25 flat plus 55 cents per mile that he drives. He has budgeted $212 for the car. Write an inequality to show how much he can spend for the car. So he can spend less than $212, or he can spend equal to $212, but he doesn't have more to spend, right? He budgeted $212. That means he can't spend over that. So $25 flat plus 55 cents per mile, so 0.55 times m or times x, whatever variable you want to give it, equals our total, right? And in this case, he says the total is $212. He doesn't have more money than that. All he's budgeted is $212. So 25 plus 0.55x has to be less than or equal to $212. This is our inequality, right? You can look at it as 212 is more than or equal to what he can spend, 0.55x plus 25. Both of these say the same thing, just in a different order. Okay, so the $25 flat fee plus 55 cents per mile has to totally equal $212 or less. If your mom gives you $10 to go to the grocery store, can you spend more than $10? No, all you've got is 10. So you can spend less than 10 or you can spend 10, but you don't have a penny more to spend, right? Same thing with the car. You can spend $212 equal to that, or you can spend less than $212, but you didn't budget more than that. All right, page 2. We did not go over graphing. I am going to put up a little video over the weekend of how to graph an inequality. It's pretty straightforward and simple. It's kind of a whole lesson on its own, but we have not gone over that yet. Okay, number 6, solve the following equations and explain each step using appropriate properties. This is not multiple choice. This actually, I'm going to use a separate sheet of paper for this. You are going to have to write this out. As long as you understand it, that's the most important part. Excuse me, my allergy's bad today. All right, so for A, we have 5 times 4x minus 3 minus 18 equals 7. So we're going to do this one step at a time. First thing I want to do is distribute, right? So I get 20x minus 15 minus 18 equals 7. And what property was that? I mean, it was the distributive property, right? So we could say distributive property, or we could say substitution, because to get from here to here, I had to substitute. Since we distributed, I'm going to go ahead and say distributive property. Distributive prop. Okay, next step, and I still have to do that out to the side. That's why I'm not writing it out to the side. Next step down, I want to combine like terms. So I have 20x, negative 15 minus 18 is negative 33 equals 7. And when you replace something with what it's equal to, that's substitution. Okay, next thing I want to do to try and solve for x here is get rid of this minus 33. So I'm going to add 33 to both sides. So I'm going to have 20x equals 40, right? And since I added the same thing on both sides, that's the addition property of equality. Okay, next thing I need to do is divide by 20 on both sides. So I get x equals 40 divided by 20 is 2. And since I divided by 20 on both sides, that's the division property of equality. Make sense? Whatever you're doing on both sides of the equal sign, that's what property of equality you're using. If I divided on both sides, I use the division property. If I added on both sides, I use the addition property. If I multiplied on both sides, that's a multiplication property. If I subtracted on both sides, that's a subtraction property. So I justified each mathematical step with the property needed. Okay, B. Kind of running out of room, so I have to squish. All right, so I have 3 times 2x minus 7 minus 4x equals 19. First thing I want to do is distribute. So I'm going to say 6x minus 21 minus 4x equals 19. That's the distributive property. Okay, next thing I want to do is combine like terms. So 6x minus 4x is 2x. 2x minus 21 equals 19. That's substitution. When you replace something in math with what it's equal to, that's substitution. Next thing I want to do to try and get x alone is get rid of this minus 21. So I'm going to add 21 to both sides of my equal sign. So I end up with 2x, and this plus 21 cancels out the minus 21. If I add 21 here, I get 40. So that was the addition property of equality since I was adding to both sides. Okay, and then the last thing I have to do is divide by 2. So x equals 20. And since I divided both sides by 2, that's the division property of equality. Division prop of equality. Okay, making sense? Now I'm really running out of room here at the end. All right, C. It's going to get real sloppy here. I've got negative 4 times 3x plus 6 plus 6 equals negative 30. First thing I want to do is distribute, right? Oops. So for my distributive property, sorry, that's crooked. It's not crooked when I'm writing it, but it's crooked on the camera. Negative 4 times 3x is negative 12x. Negative 4 times 6 is negative 24. And then I have this plus 6 on the end equals negative 30. That was the distributive property. If you put substitution, that's fine as well. Then I want to combine like terms. So negative 24 plus 6. If you're down in a hole 24 feet and you come up 6 feet, how far down are you? Now you're just down 18 feet. So negative 12x minus 18 equals negative 30. Since all I did was replace these two terms with one term equal to them, that's substitution. Okay, and then I'm trying to get x by itself, so I want to add 18 on both sides of my equal sign. Negative 12x, the minus 18 goes away. Negative 30 plus 18, I'm left with negative 12. And that was the addition property of equality since I added 18 to both sides. Add property of equality. And then last thing I want to do is divide by negative 12. Divide by negative 12. Right? So x equals 1. because negative 12 divided by negative 12 is just positive 1. And since I divided both sides of my equation by negative 12, that's the division property of equality. Okay, and then my brain, since we just went over inequalities, whenever I divide both sides by a negative, I think, oh, I gotta switch my sign, but it's an equal sign, so you don't have to switch anything, right? So we're just justifying each mathematical step with why we did that step. What property are we using? Hopefully that helps you guys out. Okay, and then number 7, so there's not just one answer, you had to have a whole list of answers for this top one. Number 7, write an inequality in standard form for each graph shown. All right, standard form. So for me, the easiest thing to do is write it in slope-intercept form and then change it to standard form. Okay, so we didn't go over how to graph an inequality, but it's pretty simple, right? So first we're going to graph it like an equation. So just pretend like there's a line here and no shading, okay? So where's my, I'm going to start with y equals mx plus b. Where's my y-intercept? 0. What's my slope? Up 1 over 2. Up 1 over 2. So 1 over 2 is my slope. So y equals 1 over 2x plus 0, right? Now, in an inequality, the shaded part is y. So y is what? Then my line. This right here is my line. This equation represents my line. So is the shaded part bigger than the line, or is it smaller than the line? Is it above the line or below the line? It's down below the line. So the shaded part, y, is less than the line. So y is less than 1/2 x. And I don't have to put the plus 0. Okay, now it's a dotted line. What the heck does that mean? It means it does not have the line under here, right? If it was a solid line, then it would have the line under this inequality symbol. Since it's a dotted line, it does not. It means that the shaded region is everything below the line, but it's nothing on the line. If it's a solid line, then it means that the answer could be the solid line as well. But if the line's dotted, it means it's not included in the answer. Just everything under it is. Okay? So if this is our, do it off here to the side. If this is our inequality in slope-intercept form, how can I write it in standard form? Remember ax plus by equals c? Right? Instead of equals, we'll have our inequality sign. So I need to get x and y on the same side of the equal sign. But the number in front of x can't be negative and it can't be a fraction when I'm all done. So instead of moving this over here, I'm going to move y over here. So I'm going to subtract y from both sides, and I get 0 is less than 1/2 x minus y. And I want to get rid of this bottom number, so I'm going to multiply everything here by 2, and I got to multiply everything here by 2. So that's 0 is less than x minus 2y, right? And then we can switch it to x minus 2y. The mouth is open towards that, so I want it to stay open towards that, is less than 0. This would be my inequality in standard form. Oh, sorry, it's crooked. Okay, so for this equation, for this guy right here, x minus 2y is less than 0, if that makes sense. Okay, we're going to do this one the same way and then change it to standard form. So first, y equals mx plus b. Where am I crossing my y-axis? At -1. What's my slope? Down 1 over 1. Down 1 over 1. So -1 is my slope. So y equals -1x minus 1. Okay, now my line is solid, so I know my inequality sign is going to have the line under it. And y is the shaded part, and here the shaded part is above the line. So I'm going to have y is greater than or equal to, because it's a solid line, so I've got the line under it. What's the equation of my line? -x minus 1. Right? So that's the slope-intercept form of my line. Now I have to change it to standard form. So I'm just going to add x to both sides of my inequality. Plus x. So I'm going to have x plus y is greater than or equal to -1. That's the equation of this graph, if that kind of makes sense. So it's just like slope-intercept, except it has an inequality sign, right? Y represents the shaded stuff. So you have to ask yourself, is the shaded stuff above the line or is the shaded stuff under the line, right? Tell me which it is. So Y is the shaded part. So is it above the line or is it below the line, right? If it's a dotted line, then your inequality sign will look like this or this. If it's a solid line, then your inequality sign will have a line under it like this or this. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. But I am going to put out another video on just graphing inequalities. All right, number 8, to determine whether each graph shown is a function. It's not multiple choice. Remember, to be a function, it has to pass the vertical line test. So if I draw a vertical line anywhere on this graph, I am only going to cross over that curved graph in one spot. So yes, this is a function. What about this one? If I draw a vertical line anywhere on the graph, am I only going to hit my line that's graphed in one spot? Yep, it's a function. What about this guy down here? If I draw a vertical line, am I only going to, uh-oh, I hit it twice. So that is not a function. If I draw a vertical line through my graph and I hit my graphed line in more than one spot, it's not a function. Same thing here. If I draw a vertical line here, I hit it in 2 spots. So no, it's not a function. Yeah, if I drew a line right here, it only hit it in 1 spot, but I have to be able to draw a vertical line anywhere through it and only hit it in 1 spot, like up here. And that's not the case for this shape or this shape. So no, these are not functions.